The Newsagents USA.
Chairman, motion to strike those words.
I had no idea what you just said.
We're not gonna do this. Look, you guys earlier literally just said
You just voted to do it.
Y'all did it first, so you don't want to talk about it.
voted to do it.
Order.
I'm trying to get clarification.
Look, calm down.
No, because this is what y'all do.
Proceeding.
So I'm trying to
Hey,
get
Ms.
clarification.
Crockett, you're not recognized.
That was just a flavour of a late night House committee meeting in Congress, which ended up in a shouting match between, you've guessed it, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican from Georgia, and Jasmine Crockett from Texas. And we're going to explain exactly what was said and why it ended up getting into racism, misogyny, and the Jerry Springer show.
Socratic dialogue, it wasn't. And it's a flavour of what is to come as we talk about the presidential debates that are going to happen, but are going to play by very different rules. We're going to talk about the court case of Donald Trump and some of the goings on there. This is not a time for high-minded speeches. This is down and dirty. Welcome to the Newsagents USA.
The Newsagents USA.
It's John.
It's Emily.
And the explanation of what went on in that House committee we will come to. But we're going to start with the Trump...
More of the same.
Which, well, it just does feel that everyone is shouting at each other.
It's the same flavour ice cream.
How can we avoid people shouting to each other? If there is a central theme that is going to guide this episode, it is that. But we've got to start in New York, in Lower Manhattan, on the 15th floor in Center Street, where the criminal court building is, and Donald Trump's appearance in court, the cross-examination of Michael Cohen, which finished yesterday, with Michael Cohen admitting, yeah, I did steal some money from the Trump Organization.
But I felt I was owed it because my bonus wasn't very big.
Yeah, and I also doubled up the money because to pay for the taxes that I might have to pay. So rather than the $30,000 that I was going to steal, I took $60,000 instead.
This is Michael Cohen, who is Trump's former fixer, attorney, who loathes Trump, who was the man who physically handed over or wired over the £130,000 to the porn actress Stormy Daniels, he says, at Donald Trump's behest. Anyway, that, if you can believe it, is in parenthesis, because yesterday there was a witness called Robert Costello, who was an attorney, a former federal prosecutor, and he was basically called to challenge this testimony given by Michael Cohen, and he then really wound up the judge. Now, the judge is implacable. He's been calm, passive, swan, on troubled waters. Juan Machon rarely loses his temper or shows any sign that this trial is getting to him. Yesterday, he hit the roof.
Well, what had happened was that Bob Costello was introduced as this new witness, and there was kind of some surprise and shock in the room. And every now and then, the prosecution would say, object, and the judge would say, sustained. It was a fair objection, therefore we're not going to have it. And at one point, Costello, who is in the witness stand, says, geez. And that is when Martin loses and said, what did you say?
Yeah.
What did you say? Did you just say geez? And then there was kind of rolling his eyes, and then the side eye like you don't know what you're doing. And that was when Marchon blew his top. Yeah. And suddenly all the court officials were told, he just said, clear the court.
Everyone out.
Everyone out.
Yeah.
And the court officials didn't know what to do, because suddenly, what, you're seriously stopping this criminal trial and you're clearing everybody from the courtroom? Yeah. Yep, that's exactly what he was doing.
And Costello starts then whispering that this judge is a tyrant. And if I can put this in a bigger context, and this is a bit of a leap, but bear with me as analogies go. We know that there are certain malevolent states that love sowing dissent, whether it's China or Russia, right? They come in and they sow dissent in elections or in sort of peacetime, and that's how they kind of, they throw democracies out. And there is a slight sense here that Trump is waiting for the legal equivalent of that. Some actor that will upend the whole proceedings and make out that this trial is somehow a sham, it can't withstand pressure, it's being influenced, and that he will get the judge to throw the whole thing out. So when Bob Costello comes in to wreak havoc to provoke the judge into then clearing out the whole court, Trump is able to turn around and go, "Oh, what kind of a ship are you running here, mate? This doesn't look like a fair trial to me," which is exactly how he wants this whole thing to end.
Yeah, but I think that there was a chastening experience for the Trump team that the judge went so ballistic, because it also sends a message to the jury as well. And remember, this is going to be decided by a jury. And Trump can spin it as much as he likes, but Trump wants to win the jury over. And the behaviour of Costello was so egregious in the eyes of the judge that the judge felt it necessary to really give him, and this, any Americans listening won't understand this term, but really give him a mighty bollocking for what had happened. And apparently Costello was a rather more chastened figure, and he is giving evidence again today, and I don't think there have been the same pyrotechnics going on in court as we had yesterday.
It also has the effect of sort of mitigating whatever the jury might have thought of Michael Cohen, because up until this point he was meant to be, you know, the star act. He was meant to be the, do you trust this guy? He's lied before, he's perjured himself, he's been a felon, he's actually got, you know, done prison time for perjury and for lying to Congress. And suddenly Michael Cohen's looking like this rather quiet, respectable bloke who's been shoved into the corner by the outrageous Costello. So anyway, why are we giving you this rundown? Because you can't hear this audio. You cannot hear what actually happens on a day-to-day basis. Sadly, there are no TV cameras allowed in court. There is a transcript every day. So this is basically the upsum of what came from those transcripts afterwards.
Yeah, and Donald Trump has added his sixpenneth worth, or 6 cents worth, with this post on Truth Social. And remember, there's meant to be a gag order that you don't attack anything. So this is from Donald Trump overnight, I think in the middle of the night, when he'd obviously gone up for a wee, and posted this. Judge Juan Marchon, who has thus far been the exact conflicted Democrat operative his comrades expected, has a chance to take a real step forwards, rehabilitating both his reputation and the justice system of New York by dismissing the Biden election interference witch hunt brought by Soros-funded DA Alvin Bragg. So we managed to get in Soros into it, and the whole case should be dismissed. How could Juan Marchon ever dismiss the case, given all that Donald Trump has just said?
Yeah, we can actually hear Donald Trump saying it now.
It's a kangaroo court. There's never been anything like this that I've ever seen. Now, I had 2 other trials that were kangaroo courts also. It's stacked up. And hopefully appellate division will take care of those things because they're, egregious. And the problem is that New York is really on trial itself. The whole world is watching. They're seeing what's happening. And you can't use conflicted judges. This is a conflicted judge, highly conflicted judge. And you just can't do that. You just cannot allow that to happen.
Technically, I think I'm right in saying he's not breaching his gag order because he is allowed to slag off the judge. He's just not allowed to slag off witnesses or the jury or, and this
court staff
or friends and family of the judge, which is where Donald Trump often likes to take this kind of attack. So, yes, he can carry on saying he changes the bingo card, but it's basically witch trial, kangaroo court, Soros,
highly conflicted, you name it,
all the rest of it. But essentially, that's Donald Trump punctuating what has been quite a complicated and feisty week in court. And next week, America has a bank holiday on Monday. And so the judge has very deliberately made sure that the jury has to come back after the bank holiday, because in that, I'm going to call it a sort of Homer Simpson way, a lot of juries actually decide things on a Friday because they want the bank holiday off and they don't want to have to come back into court the next week. This is a sort of pattern of what happens statistically. So the judge has said, right, guys, we do want to go on next week. We don't want anyone to come to a conclusion prematurely. We don't want you to rush this. You are back in court on Tuesday. And so it will continue next week. It is possible, I guess, that we get a verdict
next week.
In the middle of that or at the end?
Yeah. So Monday is Memorial Day. Tuesday, they're back in court and presumably will be sent out to consider their verdict. Donald Trump will be doing everything he can to throw as much kind of sand in the gears as he possibly can, which is something he has been doing throughout, and trying to use this as a campaigning opportunity. And it has become absolutely de rigueur that anyone who wants to be in Donald Trump's good graces, now has to go to the courtroom to appear beside him, to be part of the fan club and cheering along, giving out Donald Trump's messages that he can't give out for fear of falling foul of the injunction of the judge.
I mean, still not that many people, frankly, not that many supporters have been sort of in and around the court for him. But the ones that haven't been next to him in the courtroom have been doing the rounds on some of the weekend shows. And I wonder if you'll remember Marco Rubio.
Little Marco,
the Florida senator who tried to best Trump at his own game by referring to the size of Trump's hands or other things, finar, eyebrows raised, all the rest of it. Well, Marco is this time back in the TV studios trying to make a case for why Trump was possibly cheated out of an election in 2020, even though Marco Rubio himself certified Joe Biden at the time. Just listen to the panic that is in this man's voice as he's being interviewed on Meet the Press on Sunday.
Will you accept the election results of 2024 no matter what happens, Senator?
No matter what happens? No, if it's an unfair election, I think it's going to be contested by either side.
Senator, no matter who wins.
I think you're asking the wrong person. The Democrats are the ones that have opposed every Republican victory since 2000. Every single one. It's Hillary Clinton.
No Democrat has refused to concede. Hillary Clinton conceded. Senator, will you accept the election results?
Hillary Clinton said the election was stolen from her and that Trump was illegitimate. Kamala Harris agreed.
Senator,
we have Democrats now.
Senator, she conceded the election. She said that Trump was illegitimate. She said that the election had been stolen. Kamala Harris agreed. By the way, there are Democrats serving in Congress today who in 2004 voted not to certify the Ohio electors because they said those machines had been tampered with.
He does not pause for breath. He does not pause for breath. And it's the sort of panic of a man who is so determined to reverse the line of questioning because he can't actually answer the question about Trump. He can't actually explain why he did certify Joe Biden, but still thinks that Trump might have a point because 4 years on, here we are.
And can I just put a couple of fact checks in here, please? Fact check 1, Hillary Clinton attended Donald Trump's inauguration. Donald Trump did not attend Joe Biden's inauguration. Fact check 2, there were no legal challenges in 2016 to the result. Hillary Clinton accepted that she had lost. She might have thought that the election was stolen from her. She didn't mount the same legal challenges. Donald Trump mounted, I think, 62 or 63 legal challenges and lost every single one of them. So there was no argument over the 2016 election, although Republicans, Marco Rubio, desperate to crawl inside an orifice of Donald Trump, is trying to do on that TV interview. The facts are it did not happen that way round in 2016.
Yeah, but we will hear, I think, over the coming weeks, the Marco Rubios. We have heard Ben Carson, people who've been in Trump's administration previous times, people who might still fancy their chances of being his VP, take to, not the stand, but the microphone to try and argue in favour of Donald Trump. Will he pick any of them for VP? I think increasingly he knows exactly who it is. And it's probably a woman.
And he's probably doing this because he loves the power of making these people perform stupid dances. It's like the scene in Succession where they all have to get on the floor and, kind of... Parade. It is doing that because Donald Trump knows he can make them do that.
Yeah, and it is cold in that courtroom. He's always complaining about the sense of a refrigeration, and this is a nice, warm, cuddly feeling when he comes outside.
So when we were in Washington at the time of Super Tuesday, we went to this fancy pants dinner with a lot of the Washington chatterati, where the one established view that we found around this very big and elegant dining room table was that there would not be presidential debates between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, which just goes to show...
The chatterati know nothing.
The chatterati know nothing, because there are going to be debates, and that has now been decided. Joe Biden has accepted, Donald Trump has accepted, there's going to be a CNN debate, there is going to be an ABC debate, and there may be others as well.
Yeah, this all came very thick and fast last Wednesday when Joe Biden put out the call, laid down the gauntlet to Trump, and said, I have accepted an invitation from CNN over to you, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays. And within hours, that had been set up and arranged for June the 27th. Now, my sense is that when we were discussing this in Washington in March, it hadn't been decided in Biden's head, nor Trump's. But in the intervening weeks, Biden has noticed something which he finds almost inexplicable. He is facing an opponent who is in court every day, who isn't on the campaign trail, isn't free to campaign in the same way that Biden is having lurid details about his own sex life exposed by porn stars to the public in sort of nightly updates from the court, and yet somehow isn't falling behind in the polls. And I think the Biden team has noticed there is this stubborn stickiness to Biden's poll numbers. Not that he's falling behind, not that he's bound to lose, nothing big or dramatic, but that the narrative hasn't shifted in Biden's favour. And Biden realises if he doesn't actually get out there and start telling the public, showing the public who he is, then things could get worse. And he has a chance now, possibly to get out there early. June the 27th is the earliest TV presidential debate we've ever seen, to just have a go at this. If it all goes horribly wrong, well, you've still got 5 months to go.
And the question is, how do you police the debate? And that has become absolutely central. And Biden has insisted on some terms and conditions which are new. And there is this body in the United States called the Commission on Presidential Debates. That's been absolutely sidelined. They haven't got a say in this. So they're feeling very, very miffed that Trump and Biden have just short-circuited, stitched it up between them. But Biden is insisting that there is no studio audience. Now, Donald Trump did a town hall that one of their star presenters, Caitlin Collins, presented a little while ago. And Caitlin Collins was doing her best to try and rein Donald Trump in, but he had the crowd on his side and he completely railroaded her. This time round, Biden has said there is going to be no audience whatsoever. It's going to be in a studio. It is going to be very heavily policed. Mics are going to be cut. There won't be the interference, so that you do not get the utter show that you had in, say, the presidential debate in Cleveland 4 years ago, which was absolutely careering out of control.
You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
Are you gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't want
you're a
to answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the question
You want to put a lot
is
of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justice,
the
radical
question,
left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on your
so
list?
right.
Gentlemen, I think we've ended this.
He's going to pack the court.
We have
We're not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it?
Yeah. Will You Shut Up Man should have become the T-shirt of the night. But just to take you back, that was Chris Wallace, the moderator there, who had a really tough time, quite frankly. And he had a tough time because he was dealing with two people who both knew that they kind of lived or died politically by this debate. And one of them didn't mind if they broke the rules. And when I say broke the rules, Donald Trump, we later found out, literally arrived at that debate carrying the COVID virus. I mean, he could have actually killed Joe Biden on that stage straight up if they'd got closer than a handshake and a mask. This was Cleveland. And 2 days later, I think, Donald Trump ended up in hospital with COVID. The point about this time's debate is that when you say cut the mics, there's actually going to be an automatic cut-off. So I think they're going to decide that every answer has to be, 90 seconds, and there's going to be an automatic cut-off after 90 seconds, so that even if a moderator wanted to give you more time, they literally couldn't. Does that mean that Trump will play by the rules? I guess that is the biggest question, because this is a man who, as we've stated many times on the podcast, doesn't particularly believe in democracy or the rule of law. In fact, thinks he's above it. Why would you suddenly start playing to the rules of a TV debate?
And the other interesting question about this is, what will ratings be like? Because, we always think of the sort of the presidential debate almost in the same revered terms that Americans think of the Super Bowl.
They are. I mean, there's 73 million. Okay, so it's not Super Bowl, but 73 million was what the first debate got last cycle.
But will it get the same this time round? is 2.0 as interesting? Aren't people just weary of the Trump-Biden act, of the kind of, have I got the mental energy?
Yeah, because you've never had a debate with a president and a former president on the stage before. You've never had that.
The question is, will there be the same desire to listen into it this time round, given so few Americans want either Biden or Trump as their presidential candidates? I'm just interested in your viewpoint on this, because I know here in the UK you have done leadership debates on TV. Do you think you can have that many rules about terms of engagement and expect people, one, to play by the rules, and two, to make it an engaging piece of TV?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it? I mean, I did a debate with 5, which I would say is too many. I think 2 is the perfect number. I think 1 on their own can be actually quite bullying, as we saw with the Caitlin Collins Trump one, because he's got nothing to lose. He just attacks the moderator. He plays to the gallery, the audience, and attacks the moderator. I think with Joe Biden and Donald Trump and no audience, you have the best chance you have of getting something clean. But as you say, either they just shout at each other, in which case the audience go away because they don't understand, or else it's very, very calm and level-headed, and the audience kind of go, oh my God, 2 octogenarians, 70-year-old, 78-year-old and 81-year-old sort of slanging it out, but actually there's no real buzz in the hall. Is it interesting enough? I mean, I think the thing you can't overlook is that the TV debates are first and foremost for the broadcasters, because they bring in a lot of advertising. And if you've got 73 million, which was, to be fair, at a time of COVID where people were locked in their own homes, then you've got a lot of eyeballs bringing in a lot of potential revenue for the broadcasters. So I think that's why there's the pressure to get this going. It's it helps the economy, right? I can't promise that it will be 2 hours of excellent television, because I don't think they are generally. I think the preamble and the buzz and the chat beforehand is normally more exciting than what actually happens on stage.
And just one irony alert, one kind of arched eyebrow, that Donald Trump has come out and said that Joe Biden ought to undergo a drugs test before he appears on stage, because their suspicion is that Biden had been pumped full of drugs when he did the State of the Union speech, and that could only be the only reason why it went down as well as it did, is that he was drugged up to the eyeballs. Well, I mean, if Donald Trump had been taking a drugs test, a COVID test, before that Cleveland debate, he wouldn't have been on the stage.
Yeah. Talking of steroids and drugs and all the rest of it, Trump has decided to capitalise in his latest attack ad on this idea of Sleepy Joe. Notwithstanding the fact that he's the one that's fallen asleep in court recently, he's taken on Tom Petty, one of the all-time great songs, Free Falling, and here's the rendition he's put across. As you can imagine, the video has a lot of stumbling in it.
He's an old guy, has dementia, can't lead us, and the country is screwed, tells some big lies, barely speaks English, sniffs children, and their mom's hair too, goes the wrong way, when he leaves his speeches, gets lost each day in the White House yard. All the Dems say that we should re-elect him. How can he run when walking is hard? And Joe keeps falling, yeah, he keeps falling, keeps falling.
Okay, so it's totally grim on every level. But it is a great song. And I think there you have the power of the attack ad, which is that people who don't agree with any of the sentiments or the lyrics or what it's trying to do will nevertheless go away humming it.
Yeah, exactly. They've put Tom Petty as an earworm into Americans, and it's kind of low blow stuff, isn't it? I mean, it's, and the video, you can imagine, is, stumble, looks a bit lost.
We don't know how many of those clips are correct. We don't know how many are kind of touched up or re-edited or whatever. But that is how the attack ad industry works in America. And boy, is Trump going to capitalise on it this year.
So in the introduction to this episode, we played you a very small excerpt of what had happened in the House of Representatives, which is devoid of any context. But this is the longer version of what unfolded.
Recognizes Ms. Green.
I'd like to know if any of the Democrats on this committee are employing Judge Merchan's daughter.
Do you know what we're here for? You know we're here about AG.
I don't think you know what you're here for.
Well, you the one talking about.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No,
what you're
ain't
reading.
nothing.
Hold on.
Listen.
Order.
Mr. Chairman,
That's beneath even
order.
Point of order. not a
Mr.
point
I
of
do
order.
have a point of order, and I would like to move to take down Ms. Green's words. That is absolutely unacceptable. How dare you
Meeting will
attack the
suspend.
physical
Meeting will
appearance of another
suspend.
person?
Are your
Move
feelings hurt?
her words down.
Aw.
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Oh, really?
Don't even play. with
Baby
me.
girl?
We're gonna,
I don't
We
think
are going to
so.
move, and we're going to take your words down.
I
Thank you very
second that motion.
You will not understand a single point of policy from that debate. It was absolute mayhem. As John Fetterman, one senator, the Pennsylvania senator, later tweeted, I thought it was Jerry Springer, but actually I feel like apologising to Jerry Springer. But what was at the heart of that was, I guess, not only the idea that dissent was being sown once again by Marjorie Taylor Greene, who went for her opponent, Jasmine Crockett, because she was wearing, she said, false eyelashes, and Crockett and her supporters called this out as being a racial kind of stereotype, that she's a black woman, she's African American, and she felt that Marjorie Taylor Greene had basically gone for her appearance and was trying to play up to something that felt dangerously racist.
Yeah, well, Marjorie Taylor Greene saying maybe you can't see because of your false eyelashes. And it was just kind of, I heard it and thought, wow, that is ugly. I mean, that's sort of, whatever you think, whether it's a racial overtone or not.
It was the equivalent of pulling hair, right?
Yeah,
it was like playground and pulling hair. And Jasmine Crockett then hits back and uses this extraordinary phrase where she talks about beach, blonde, bad-built, butch body. Now, she says she wasn't calling Marjorie Taylor Greene that per se. She was giving an example of a phrase that she might use within the context of the House committee hearing to see whether or not she would get suspended. It would be wiped from the register. In other words, she would be penalised for saying that. And she's now decided to trademark that whole phrase herself, which makes you think that no one is really thinking about the politics in the situation anymore. No one is thinking about the duties or the reputation of the House. They're just thinking of themselves. It makes politics look seriously shabby.
It makes it look seriously shabby, and you realise the other part about it is that it makes it feel like it's another fundraising opportunity for them.
Yeah.
I can mint this T-shirt, and I bet you Marjorie Taylor Greene, even though kind of widely lambasted for telling you to off over Jewish space lasers.
Yeah, probably got that on a T-shirt.
Probably thought that's on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Anything. It doesn't matter. There is no way you can go that is so low that there is not a marketable opportunity to be had out of it. And, where we started, about debate and about political interaction, and this whole episode has been about all of that.
Yeah.
And you just think, oh my God.
That's why you'd be depressed, I think, if you were Joe Biden, because Joe Biden still wants to get up on that debate stage and talk about policy and talk about immigration and talk about abortion and talk about inflation and talk about all the massive big issues. But that is the kind of context, that kind of language is what America is getting used to hearing now from its lawmakers, from its legislators, from people who have been elected to high office. And so you kind of think, this 81-year-old who's going to try and make sense of some kind of debate on that stage has got a rough ride ahead of him.
We will be back next week. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
The News Agents USA.